victims, which means that no other form of discrimination will be recognized. In other words, as many are saying, this is reverse discrimination. That just because historically a section has faced bias, they cannot be perpetrators of bias themselves. Anywhere in the world, such a policy is given weightage. It has led to more social divisions and generally a breakdown of social fabric. Then, of course, is the lived reality of many being framed in caste cases, which has very stringent provisions already in criminal code and ends up destroying lives well before the truth can be ascertained. Now, if that was to be replicated in campuses, will it not have an equally devastating effect? Sections of bodies and student groups from upper caste backgrounds are now up in arms demanding a rollback of these said guidelines. This clash is not just about one commission or another set of rules. It's a larger question. Where is the line between affirmative action and reverse bias? And is India falling prey to the socially discredited leftist philosophy of equity, which actually has problematic results on ground and is effectively against the idea of equality, which we all want? Now, that's the big debate coming up with our guests in just a bit. Will these new guidelines effectively promote reverse caste bias? Will it become ammunition against those who may want to frame upper caste individuals? And do the upper caste individuals in this case have any safeguards? That's the question they're asking. Also on the show today, another explosive seizure that has been made, this time in Rajasthan. But why is it reminding everyone of the Delhi terror module? We'll get you more in just a bit. Later on the show, we'll also break down if the EU-India deal will trump Donald Trump. Does it have the effect of actually sending a sobering message to the United States of America, which has been snaring at everybody, including EU and India? We'll get that later on the show. But a special reminder, we had a special guest in our studios earlier today. The men's T20 World Cup trophy was amongst us. We'll also get you snippets of that special coverage later on the show. But first up, taking note of the showdown over the new UGC guidelines, the Education Minister has assured action. Not many are really going by the words that have been said by him just so far. But Dharmendra Pradhan has said that there will be no discrimination whatsoever under these new guidelines and no one can misuse these UGC anti-discrimination rules. He has assured that no one will be allowed to misuse the law. But that's not really coming out as much as solace as far as those who feel they could be at the receiving end of these guidelines. And here's the clause in the new guidelines that has really ignited this storm. This is what it reads. Caste-based discrimination means discrimination only on the basis of caste or tribe against the members of the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes. Now, this is the classification of what discrimination cases this body or this Equity Commission will look at, which has created the storm, because it is a very close-ended definition of who can file a case and who can be a victim or a perpetrator in this case. But let me break down more on the new UGC equity rules, because there are other concerns as well. First of all, this replaces a 2012 anti-discrimination framework. The attempt, as I said, is to prevent caste-based discrimination in campuses. But OBCs are now under the ambit of anti-discrimination rules. Earlier, the framework was limited to only SCs and STs. Discrimination on campus has now been made a punishable offence. Colleges will form, as I said, an equity panel to probe these complaints. But equity panel, it is said, as per these guidelines, will have an SC, ST, OBC representation. The rules, though, are silent on upper caste representation, which is another bone of contention. So, is there a rethink needed as far as these UGC caste guidelines is concerned? That's the big debate coming up first on Plain Speak. Has the government, have the agencies, the bureaucrats erred in the way they have designed these UGC guidelines, and is a rollback needed?
सरासर पक्षवाद है, ये जातिवाद है, इसको खत्म किया जाए, अन्यथा देश का भविष्य गर्त में है।
जिन्होंने नहीं पढ़ी है गाइडलाइन, उनको अधिकार है कि बिना जाने वो कहीं का भी घेराव कर लें। जिन्होंने पढ़ी है, या जो पढ़ेंगे वो किसी का गिराव नहीं करेंगे।
किसी को उत्पीड़न होने नहीं दिया जाए, कोई भेदभाव नहीं होगा, कोई डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के नाम पे किसी को भी मिसयूज करने का अधिकार नहीं रहेगा।
यूजीसी को खुद रिव्यू करके इस ऐसे आदेश को वापस लेना चाहिए।
Let's go across to our guest joining us. TV Mohandas Pai, chairman of RN Capital, has been very critical of this new order. Is joining us Thakur Shivam Singh, co-founder of Savarn Army, one of those bodies that is actually opposing what is happening with these guidelines. Ajit Khanna, political analyst and a caste activist. Mithun Vijay Kumar is an author and activist, also joining us on the show. So, Shivam ji, मैं सबसे पहले आपसे शुरू करना चाहती हूँ कि गवर्नमेंट ने या सरकार ने, मिनिस्टर ने आज आके एक बयान दिया है कि इन गाइडलाइंस का मिसयूज वो नहीं होने देंगे। तो क्या आप आश्वस्त हैं अब उनके बयान के बाद? आपने प्रोटेस्ट भी किया था आज दिन में। जी
जी जी, मैं आपको बता दूं कि देखिए, जब प्रोटेस्ट होने लगता है, जब विरोध दर्ज होने लगता है, तो गवर्नमेंट्स भी जो है तरीका निकालने लगती हैं कि रास्ता क्या है इससे बचने का। बाकी और इनका कोई तरीका और इनका कोई और वजह नहीं है। इनका जो बयान है वो इसी वजह से आ रहा है क्योंकि सवर्ण समाज इनसे नाराज चल रहा है।
नहीं, बट आप आश्वस्त हैं जो मिनिस्टर साहब कह रहे हैं, या आपको लगता है आपकी जो प्रोटेस्ट है वो चलेंगे? अभी तक 15 दिन का टाइम दिया है आपने यूजीसी को, क्या मांग रखी है आपने?
नहीं, देखिए, ये तो झूठे लोग हैं, इन पर क्या भरोसा। जो नेता हैं ये सबसे बड़े झूठे हैं, इन पर क्या भरोसा किया जाए। दूसरी बात, हमने मांग रखी है कि आज हम चेयरमैन से भी मिले, यूजीसी के चेयरमैन से मिले, और उनसे हमारी 15-20 मिनट तक बात हुई, और उसके आधार पर हमने ये बात रखी है कि इन कानूनों को वापस लिया जाए, क्योंकि ये छात्र हितों की हत्या कर रहे हैं ये कानून। ये आप मैं बताऊं, हम पढ़ते थे कॉलेजों में, हम छात्र नेता भी हुआ करते थे, लेकिन आज तक हमने किसी प्रकार का कोई डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं किया। पहली बार ऐसा कानून थोपा जा रहा है बच्चों पर, और बच्चों से वो पूछा भी नहीं जा रहा है एक बार कि हाँ, क्या आपको ऐसा कानून चाहिए या नहीं चाहिए, और ना ही किसी शिक्षक से इस बात को पूछा गया। तो भाई, कैसे आप क्या तानाशाही रवैया अपना रहे हैं? क्या आप चाह रहे हैं कि हिटलर शाही करना चाह रहे हैं इस देश में? ये नहीं होगा। छात्र हितों की हत्या बिल्कुल बर्दाश्त नहीं होगी। और मैं बता दूं, युवा जो है ना, वो इस देश का भविष्य है। युवा इस देश का भविष्य है, और ये लोग भविष्य से खिलवाड़ कर रहे हैं, देश को गर्त में ले जाने का काम कर रहे हैं।
आप मुझे ये बताइए, आपको क्यों लगता है कि ये खिलवाड़ है? आपको क्यों ये चिंता है कि इसका मिसयूज होगा? ऐसे कुछ केसेस हैं आपके पास, कुछ इंस्टेंसेस हैं जिससे अपर कास्ट लोगों को फंसाया जाता है? क्योंकि ये एक अंशा जताई जा रही है कि इसका मिसयूज होगा। तो आप क्या मानते हैं, क्यों मिसयूज होगा, कैसे मिसयूज होगा?
मैं आपको इसी के बेसिस पर एक उदाहरण दूंगा। एक इससे पहले 2018 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट की एक गाइडलाइन आई थी SC ST एक्ट में, जिसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने यह बताया था कि अब जो भी SC ST एक्ट के मामले दर्ज किए जाएंगे वो 7 दिनों की जांच के बाद तब दर्ज होंगे, ठीक है। लेकिन कानून बन गया, उस पर संसद के द्वारा बिल पारित किया गया और अधिनियम बनाया गया, और उसके थ्रू जितने मुकदमे मैंने पाए, मैंने NCRB के आंकड़े निकलवाए। मैं वैसे नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं हवा में बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, इसीलिए विरोध कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि मैंने NCRB के आंकड़े निकलवाए, और उसमें लगभग 73% मामले झूठे पाए जा रहे हैं। और बार बार यही हो रहा है, क्योंकि क्या है कि आज SC ST एक्ट लगने पर SC ST समुदाय के लोगों को क्या मिल रहा है कि कुछ जो है सरकार के द्वारा पैसा मिल रहा है। तो ये एक धन उगाही का साधन बन चुका है, और ये एक्ट एक प्रकार से सवर्णों पर शोषण, सवर्ण ही नहीं, इससे पूरा OBC समाज भी प्रताड़ित है। मैं कह रहा हूं कि 3600 कुछ मामले हमने देखे जो सवर्णों पर लगे, और बाकी जो मामले 59,000 के करीब में हमने देखे जो फर्जी मामले जो OBCs पर लगे। तो बताइए, इसका दुरुपयोग हुआ कि नहीं हुआ? ऐसे ही यह भी जो कानून है, जिसमें कोई गाइडलाइन सही तरीके से नहीं दी गई है कि बच्चों पर कैसे लगेगा, लोगों का क्या है कि आइडेंटिटी छुपाई जाएगी, तो ऐसे में तो कोई किसी के ऊपर आरोप लगा देगा। ऐसे में कोई छात्र उठेगा, शिक्षक के ऊपर आरोप लगा देगा, और शिक्षक सही तरीके से अगर नंबर नहीं दे पाएगा, अंक नहीं दे पाएगा मारे डर के मारे, तो क्या देश का भविष्य बढ़ेगा? क्या विश्व गुरु की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं कि या हम देश को जातीय खंड खंड में बांटने का काम कर रहे हैं?
I also want to bring in Mohandas Pai here because he's also been very critical of these notifications. But Mohandas Pai, now that these clarifications have come from the Education Minister himself, do they suffice, or do you think this is not enough?
No, I don't think the clarifications are adequate. The regulations say very clearly there's only one set of people who can be oppressor, the other general category. What the Supreme Court wants to do is to stop caste discrimination. What you're saying now is 15% of the population are oppressor, they discriminate against the 85%. The 15% can be blamed. Nobody else can be blamed. If you read the regulation, what do they say? It's for ST, OBC minorities, right? When SC is 18% of 17% of population, SC is 8%, backwards of 40%, that is 65%, and minorities are 20%, 85%, that is left only 15% for others. Others are not protected. Why can't they say this is to prevent caste discrimination against any student? Why say SC, ST, OBC, etc.? Are you saying that only they are the oppressed, others are not oppressed? Now we see many cases where people belonging to these communities are threatening people, filing cases. Just recently, the Supreme Court diluted the SC/ST Act, which was being misused in a very big way. It's being misused in many parts of the country to extort money, threaten people, do all kind of stuff. Just today, I saw a video on Twitter to say that one person belonged to a community went and proposed to a girl of the general category. When she refused, he went and said, I'm going to file a case against ST/SC Act.
Yeah.
And then after you file a case, what do? You get arrested. Nobody believes you. Nobody trusts you. It's totally one-sided. Now the education ministry is sending a set of citizens to the wolves. If they want to prevent caste discrimination, why can't they say caste discrimination against any student?
Yeah, because it is generally taken that caste discrimination only happens from upper caste to other castes. But there is a trend emerging where fraudulent cases or motivated cases can be, filed because these sections provide such great protection for due reason to the SC/STs and now the OBCs under these new guidelines. But Ajit Khanna, don't you think that there is a justifiable reason for upper caste or general caste to be worried? Because discrimination has been categorized in only a one-way or as a one-way traffic. It doesn't take into account that today there may be people who may use somebody's upper caste background also as a motive to either, discriminate against them. There is enough viciousness on campuses or outside, and these rules can be misused because there is no safeguard.
Good evening. I'm appalled by the chairman's statement. The oppression happens across the caste. Please, it's not that he does not know. I have great amount of respect for Mohandas sir, but you tell me who has been oppressed even today means recently. A person was beaten to death in somewhere in UP, somewhere in MP, somewhere in Tamil Nadu, where I come from. The most casteist state happens to be, unfortunately, Tamil Nadu. And they are beaten to death, or they are not allowed to even walk in the street, or they are not even allowed to walk with their slippers. They are not allowed to take their cycle in their colony. They were asked to drink the human excreta. The oppression for Brahmins, this has happened. Please show me one. Drinking human excreta.
No, like I said, I agree with you. One second. Like I said, caste discrimination follows from quote-unquote upper caste or so-called upper caste.
It is top-down, no?
Yeah, no, I get that. But I am saying that there are now, before even these guidelines were released, there were already fears that the SC/ST Act itself was being misused. Yes, every law can be misused, but more and more such cases are coming to light. And now you make a guideline and a quote-unquote equity panel, which is going to predefine discrimination. That's a predisposition. Don't you think that's faulty to begin with?
No. Why I'm saying faulty it's not faulty. See, we can always address this issue.
How?
But that's what we are doing right now. We are in this debate also. We are addressing certain issues and concerns. See, you have to not have something to ask for that. What is that Brahmins or upper caste don't have? They have everything. 10 generations of educated people. Whereas SC, ST, second generation, maximum third generation. Even now I have a student who says I am the first generation. This 2026, today I was asking, well, I didn't ask his caste, but he says without mentioning his caste, I am the first generation. And he is not a Brahmin. From his surname, I can say he is not a Brahmin.
No,
And he's not an upper caste either. He could be either OBC or SC. I don't know. I don't want to know also. So, but he says, I'm the first generation. He's 17 or 20 years old.
So, individual cases aside, see here the real problem is not denial that there is caste discrimination or bias. I don't think any of us want to do that. The real bone of contention here is that there is a misuse of such provisions that is being highlighted by upper caste or general caste individuals. Are we going overboard? Are we going overboard in establishing this utopian equity which does not exist anywhere? And while trying to do that, are we creating more harm than good is the question.
No. Ambedkar, Baba Sahib Ambedkar always asked for equitable distribution or equitable justice, not equal. We are not equal. So there cannot be equal justice. It is equitable. That's what equity means.
No, equitable distribution I understand. You can argue about that. What is equitable justice? You talk about equitable justice, that's against the very idea of equality. Justice cannot be equitable.
Shivani, Miss Shivani, where is the equitable justice? Where is the equitable distribution? Where are the resources? I'm saying second generation, third generation. आप लोगों को इतना तकलीफ क्यों होता है reservation का और caste discrimination? I'm not able to speak in Hindi the way the other two panel members are speaking. Otherwise, I would love to tell them where is the justice and where is the equitable distribution.
That's what I'm saying.
Caste is also...
Kanaji, that's what I'm saying. One second. Equitable distribution is a completely separate thing. I'm not getting into reservations right now, otherwise the debate will get very spread. I am focusing on the idea of equitable justice. I think that's a faulty principle. It cannot be applied. It will create more problems than anything else. Justice is justice. It cannot be equitable, keeping in mind the identity of either the victim or the perpetrator, and it cannot pigeonhole people into the categories of aggressor and perpetrator versus victim predetermined on their base, because that is injustice, that is not justice. But I want to bring in, once again, I want to bring in Mithun Vijay Kumar. Has the government shot itself in the foot, Mithun, by trying to do something like this? They're already not being able to address the issue of misuse of SC/ST Act. On top of that, they're going for these very fancy leftist Western ideals of equity, which don't apply in our society. Neither was there ever a constitutional mandate of equity. Our constitutional mandate is equality.
See, definitely it is about equality, but we should also understand, substantive equality. So that is the whole idea of bringing in this particular law. And it's not a one-way traffic like you said. Let's not confuse personal disputes with social discrimination. If a student from any background is bullied, we have very strong anti-ragging laws and the IPC to handle that. So all the students, all of them are protected under those specific laws. But this particular UGC regulation, it's a special law for a special problem. And caste discrimination, it's not just a private fight between two people. It's a systemic act where someone is targeted for their birth, and to keep them in place. Many people have been targeted. The data shows that a specific harm or specific type of harms targeted towards certain students of SC, ST, and OBC communities. So that is the issue we are trying to address.
No, but how do you address the lopsidedness and also the misuse of these provisions? That's the big question.
Yeah. As far as the fear of misuse is concerned, we must understand that there is no law in the history of the world that is 100% immune to misuse, whether it is the dowry laws or the check bounce laws or anything. But you can't say that we can't have protection for specific groups because there is a fear of misuse. And this government, the government has focused on the numbers here actually. UGC data clearly shows that there is 118% rise in caste-based bullying, which is, and the victims, 90% of the victims are from SC, ST, and OBC communities. So don't we have to give them protection?
Why are they 90% of the victims? They should be 100% of the victims under these guidelines.
No, if you are saying that, the 10% is the problem, I'm saying there is anti-ragging laws. So the 10%.
No, why are you mixing their caste discrimination as ragging? Why are you tagging it as ragging? If the data says 90 out of these cases, 10% are cases where there is reverse bias or reverse discrimination, acknowledge it. Don't just bundle it under a category of ragging.
Definitely 10, even there shouldn't be 10% also, but 90% of the victims are coming from SC, ST, and OBC
you're making my
what
point.
do you know about that?
You're making my point that there is already evidence that general caste could also face discrimination under these new guidelines. Once again, under this new guideline, there is no way to recognize that discrimination. That's my fundamental problem. You make the term discrimination open-ended, then it's okay.
No. Then there is what is the point in bringing this law specifically for the protection of certain communities? I am saying 90% of the victims are from SC, ST, and OBC.
What about the other 10%? They don't deserve protection.
You are focusing on the 10%.
No, I'm not focusing just on the 10%.
The problem is much larger than that.
Of course, it is much larger than that. But you cannot say we will allow the 10% to suffer because we want to give justice to the 90%.
Even the 10%
if you
should
made
not suffer.
caste, if you just made the definition that any caste-based discrimination or bias will invite action, I don't think people will have a problem. Predefining discrimination as a one-way traffic is the issue here.
That is because 90% is a very big number, and let's focus on the 90% first, and then maybe we can move on to the 10%.
Okay.
But as of now, there is
Shivam ji ko respond
118% rise, and 90% of the people who are
Can
being
I also
targeted
say,
are from SC, ST, and OBC. That is a major issue.
Can I also say that while a 118% jump in discrimination complaints between 2019 and 2024 is being quoted, the absolute number is 173 to 378. Yes, it is a 118% jump, but to suggest that these are widespread cases in thousands and tens of thousands across India would also be a misreflection of what is happening on ground. But I want to ask Shivam very quickly. वो कह रहे हैं कि 90% cases SC, STs और OBCs के खिलाफ होते हैं, 10% ही ऐसे cases होते हैं जो अपर कास्ट या जनरल कास्ट के खिलाफ होते हैं, तो उन 90% को प्रोटेक्ट करने की जरूरत है ना लॉज में या इन रूल्स में.
इनके हिसाब से तो ये है कि सवर्ड अगर 2% है, 10% है, तो वो सवर्ड इस देश को छोड़ दे, जनरल कैटेगरी इस देश को छोड़ करके चला जाए. इनके हिसाब से ये है. दूसरी बात, इनकी एक बात का मैं जवाब और दूंगा ये खन्ना साहब की, कि वो बोल रहे हैं कि बाबा साहब ने ऐसा कहा. अरे भाई, बाबा साहब ने तो ये भी कहा था कि 10 साल के बाद आरक्षण का जो है समीक्षा की जाए, आरक्षण को समाप्त किया जाए. मैं आरक्षण के पक्ष में नहीं हूँ, ये बैसाखी है, लेकिन क्या है कि इनको जिसमें फ़ायदा है वो इनके लिए सही है. वो इनके बाबा साहब की जो है कोट हो गई. बाकी और बाबा साहब क्या कहते हैं क्या नहीं कहते हैं उससे इन लोगों को कोई मतलब नहीं. इन लोगों ने एक कानून पढ़ा है, एक किताब पढ़ी है कि सवर्णों ने इस देश का 5000 वर्षों तक शोषण किया. अरे भाई, ये बोलते हैं कि हमें पानी नहीं पीने दिया गया, हमें खाना नहीं खाने दिया गया. अरे भाई, बगैर खाना और पानी पिए जो है कोई जिंदा रह सकता है? नहीं रह सकता है. कोई तर्क नहीं है इस बात का. दूसरी बात, ये जो भाई साहब कह रहे हैं कि 10% को छोड़ 10% जो है अगर सवर्ण हैं तो उनको हटा दिया जाए और 90% का आंकड़ा देखा जाए. मैं आपसे बता रहा हूं कि तमाम सवर्ण ऐसे हैं जो केवल और केवल SC ST एक्ट के लगने से या SC ST एक्ट के भय से डॉक्टर से लेकर के और इंजीनियर तक तमाम लोग फांसी पर लटक गए हैं. तमाम लोग जो है अपने सम्मान को बचाने के लिए आत्महत्या कर लिए हैं. तो क्या उन 10% का, उन सवर्णों का कोई मोल नहीं है? उनकी जान नहीं है? क्या वो इस देश के नागरिक नहीं है?
नहीं, यही तो वो इक्विटी और इक्वालिटी का कॉन्सेप्ट आ जाता है. आई वांट टू ब्रिंग इन मोहनदास पाई आल्सो. यू नो, दिस होल आइडिया ऑफ इक्वालिटी वर्सेस इक्विटी, डू यू थिंक it can be problematic because there can be equality of opportunities, but there cannot be an equality of outcomes, which is why the whole concept of equity is criticized.
Look, we have to create equal opportunities for all citizens of the country. That is a constitutional mandate. All of us are equal. And we must remember the concept of reservation is an exception to Article 14, which promises equality, is an exception. It is supposed to be for 10 years. And we must remember, I hope everybody listens to this, the idea of reservation was put in the Constituent Assembly and Parliament by Dr. Ambedkar. The Constituent Assembly and the first Parliament for 35 years was largely from the upper caste. All of them agreed. All of them agreed. We need reservation for a section of a society for a number of years so that we create equal opportunity. It is a national consensus that worked. Now, you can't accuse people of the so-called upper caste, you're all oppressors, you're not given opportunity. Whereas it is these people who are in the majority who decided in the Constituent Assembly in the first parliament to have reservation on the recommendation of Dr. Ambedkar. And every 10 years they have been approving it. Everybody is being saying we must have an egalitarian society. You can create equal opportunities, but you cannot create equal outcomes. It's not possible at all. All of us are very different. Some of us work hard, some of us don't work hard, some of us do better. It's the nature of human beings. You must read Thomas Sowell, the American black philosopher, who said very clearly that if you push people who are of a slightly lower accomplishment in college to a college which has got very high accomplishment, they're bound to fail. You're setting them up for failure. Today, in many of these IITs, you are getting people from the one part of the reserved community who may have 40-45% marks, where 50% of them come with 99-98%. How will they succeed? They will not succeed. You are setting them up for failure and destroying their lives on the grounds of equity. We saw recently that they want to have negative marks for a MD program for medicine. How can you have negative marks for a highly specialized MD program? If you go to Supreme Court, will the Supreme Court agree to that? Will the political leaders who are trying to do this and the people who are laying down these rules, will they agree to have a person with minus 40 or minus negative marks for MD, treat them? Come on, give me a break. Let's be realistic. We must give people equal opportunities.
Okay.
That's a constitutional mandate. And if some people are not able to give them a leg up by saying that the marks they may get can be 10-20% lesser as a admit criteria compared to the average of the top 50%. That's fine, but don't bring it down to zero. Don't bring it down to minus. I mean, it doesn't work. You're destroying the lives of these people.
Yeah, actually, it's a double whammy because very recently that whole episode also happened where there were negative marks allowed for PG counseling, and then this. Yes, Mithun, you wanted to come in. I have 30 seconds, please, before I take a final comment.
See, there are a couple of things that are being discussed. One is that, this labels as one particular class as the oppressor. So I would like to ask the panelist who was, arguing against me, I would like to ask him that there is a women protection law in the country. So there are false complaints, filed against men. So those particular, category of men, they may be much more than 10%. Do you care about them? Do you also go ahead and say that, women protection laws should be abolished from the country?
Okay,
you won't do that, right? Because that's a shield against the systemic violence that you're talking about.
Systemic violence, yes.
And let's also come to this question on, opportunity. I don't support the endless expansion of job
Both
reservations.
of them
Even
talked
I don't
about
support
10
it.
years.
But we must distinguish
Who is
between the
the-
selection
after
process
that
and
he
survival
said he
process.
died.
Job reservations,
Who
we
is
should
the-
not be equating job
which
reservations
party
with
or
this.
which
Job
politician
reservations are a
did
debate
not
about
want to stop
competition,
this?
about
Okay.
who gets a seat on
No,
the
I
table.
don't want to
Now,
get into
let
the
the
I don't want to
BJP
get into the issue of reservations. It's a
Why
much
did he say
deeper,
then? Why
much
did you allow
larger
them
topic.
to
I've got
say?
30
You should have
seconds
asked
left.
this
Yes,
question to
Shivam
them.
ji, you want to respond to this कि महिलाओं के लिए भी स्पेसिफिक लॉज हैं, वो भी सिर्फ महिलाओं को ही लागू होते हैं. तो ऐसे तो बहुत सारे लॉज हैं जो मिसयूज हो सकते हैं. ये तो कह लो लॉ नहीं है, ये यूजीसी की गाइडलाइन है. तो आप मानते हैं कि सिर्फ यही कहना कि ये मिसयूज हो सकता है, ये सही नहीं है?
मेरे भाई साहब तो बुद्धिमान लग रहे हैं, लेकिन मुझे इनकी बात पर हंसी आ रही है. महिलाओं के लिए पूरी महिला की कौम की बात की जा रही है, ना कि SC ST और OBC महिला की बात की जाए. भाई साहब सुनिएगा 2 मिनट. अब मैं 30 सेकंड आपको सुनाऊं बिल्कुल अच्छे से.
30 सेकंड नहीं, प्लीज डोंट स्पीक ओवर.
सुनिएगा भाई मिथुन जी, सुनिएगा 1 मिनट. इनका कहना ये है, नहीं सुनिए 1 मिनट आपके सामने. देखिए, बात ये है कि वो सारे महिलाओं के लिए है. क्या ये सारे छात्रों के लिए है? क्या छात्रों में आपस में भेदभाव नहीं उत्पन्न कर रहा है ये लॉ? बिल्कुल कर रहा है. तो ऐसे समय में ऐसे कानूनों को निरस्त किया जाना चाहिए.
But just a clarification, this isn't a law really, this is a guideline that will of course be implementable on campuses. We'll wait and see. The government is giving an assurance that they will not allow discrimination or misuse of these guidelines, but the last word has not been spoken on this. I do thank our guests for joining us. Moving on the eve of Republic Day, Rajasthan police seized a massive cache of explosives in Nagaur district. Acting on a tip-off, police raided a farm in Harsod village late Saturday night, recovering nearly 10,000 kilograms of ammonium nitrate, an explosive material that's been linked to previous blast cases, including the November 2025 explosion near Red Fort in the national capital, thereby triggering alarm. So approximately 9,550 kilograms of ammonium nitrate packed in 187 sacks was found. The location, as I said, was a farmhouse in Harsord village in Nagaur. Along with the chemical, police recovered 9 cartons of detonators and multiple bundles of red and blue fuse wires. 58-year-old Suleiman Khan, a resident of this Harsord village, with a history of 3 prior criminal cases, was arrested on the spot. He was acquitted in one such previous case, but the very fact that he had 3 prior such cases of Explosives Act has also raised eyebrows. So what are the similarities between the Delhi terror module that was busted last year and this one? First, of course, both modules were found stockpiling unprecedented quantities of industrial-grade explosives, especially ammonium nitrate. Both modules operated through a sophisticated interstate network to move materials and personnel that is being suspected in this latest recovery as well. And security agencies are linking both to Pakistan-based groups, particularly Jaish-e-Mohammed and Ansar Ghazwatul Hind. And the probe is on the same terror angle. So is this another Delhi-like terror module, or is this just explosive material that was possibly intended for other uses? That's the big question on everyone's mind. We also have a special guest joining us.
विस्फोटक सामग्री जो कि मौके से जब्त की गई है, जो कि भारी मात्रा में है और संभवतया प्रदेश की सबसे बड़ी विस्फोटक अधिनियम की ये कार्रवाई है। कुल इसमें लगभग 10,000 किलोग्राम अमोनियम नाइट्रेट जब्त किया गया है।
I'm joined by Vice Modi, who's former DG, NIA. We're discussing this recovery that has been made in Nagaur in Rajasthan, 10,000 kilograms of ammonium nitrate that has been found. In Delhi model, there was 3,000 kilograms of the same material that was found. So is this not a big worry that so soon after a terror module was busted, another such large quantity is being found?
No, it's a matter of great concern that such large quantities have been found at one place. Interestingly, the person from whom this has been found, by name Suleiman Khan, is an old offender of this type of crime. He is believed to be accused in 3 cases of this nature. And this type of large recovery makes it mandatory for authorities to take notice and to ensure that these things don't happen, because if this such amount of ammonium nitrate had reached in the hands of anti-nationals and terrorists, it would have created a havoc. So I personally feel that though there are ammonium nitrate rules 2012 are in existence, but regarding, I think those rules are relating to preservation and control and storage. But I don't think there are provisions regarding sale and of these. I mean, this has double use. These are used for fertilizer purposes as well as for use in mining construction activities. So I think government will have to make strict rules and ensure proper implementation of those rules. Then only we'll be able to control the abuse and misuse of such dangerous and potent material. So I personally feel that authorities should work on that, and we must ensure that these ammonium nitrate reaches in the hands of only the persons who actually need, and not for the criminals.
But because this is happening so close to the Delhi model, do you think that apart from what some may suggest that could be mining or other motives, there could well be a terror motive as far as this cache is concerned? Because, you know, it was also found, for example, very close to Republic Day.
it's only after the interrogation of the person who has been arrested, police will be able to know what was the real motive of storage of such big quantity of ammonium nitrate, whether it was for terrorism or whether it was for other criminal activities or was it for genuine use for construction. It's difficult to say at this stage, but the possibility of usage of this material by terrorists can't be ruled out.
Yeah, the very fact that so much of the same material can be transported and kept is a matter of great concern. So, what more do you think security agencies or local police need to do to ensure that a message goes into society that you cannot be found stockpiling such explosive material?
No, because generally recovery is made around the bigger festivals or our national days because the authorities are more alert during that period.
Sure.
So I feel that we'll have to be alert throughout the year for this type of materials. And till now, perhaps police authorities thought that it generally were used for construction and all that. But now, as we have the experience that we have found, by our experience, we have found that it is being used by terrorists. So I'm sure that authorities must be taking notice of this. And to prevent abuse of this material, I think thorough interrogation of this person needs to be done from where he has procured, from whom he has procured, and who were the likely buyers of this. So it needs thorough investigation, and the culprits need to be brought to book so that it becomes a lesson for others as well.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. Vice Modi, I do thank you for joining us. Certainly a matter of concern as far as the agencies are concerned. Moving on, amid Trump's tariff tantrums, India and European Union have finalized a landmark trade deal described as the mother of all deals, and it's being viewed by all as a win-win for both sides. The free trade agreement will significantly expand the overall trajectory of two-way engagement, as it will open up new opportunities for cooperation in diverse areas as well, and it is signaling a long-term partnership between the two blocs. But here's a list of products that will witness change in terms of tariffs and therefore could become much cheaper as far as the Indian consumers are concerned. So wines that face 50% tariff will now see 20% on premium range and 30% on medium range. Spirits currently face up to 150% tariffs from Europe will face only 40% now. Beers face 110% tariffs, now will attract 40% as well. There is olive, margarine and other vegetable oils that face up to 45% tariffs. These will be reduced to zero. Kiwis and pears face 35% tariffs, now will face 10% tariffs in quota only. Fruit juices and non-alcoholic beers will also face 0% tariffs from the current 55%. Processed foods that see up to 50% tariffs will now attract 0% tariffs, and sausages and other meat preparations that face up to 110% tariffs will be reduced to 50%. But more than the price of goods alone, what is even more important in this deal is the US angle. Will this send a message to US as both India and EU say we have options? I spoke to Brussels-based trade economist Hossuk Lee Makiyama. This is what he had to say on the geopolitical significance of this deal. This deal, Mr. Lee Makiyama, is being called the mother of all deals, the biggest, in terms of volume ever anywhere in the world before. Your first thoughts on the significance of this EU-India trade deal?
Well, to be honest, I haven't encountered a single agreement in the last 20 years that I've been doing trade negotiations that hasn't been sold as a landmark agreement or the mother of all deals. So I assume that this is just as important as all the other ones.
Sure. But in your sense, the significance of this deal, particularly in the current global geopolitical context, what do you read into this?
Well, first of all, both from India and Europe, trade agreements don't have a very much significance in terms of strategy and geopolitics. They're products of commercial policy, and this is the best one available on the table at the moment. India failed to secure its access to United States. To some degree, you could say that Europe did that as well. We don't have access to China, which basically leaves each other as the biggest markets. And we took whatever was available on the, whatever deal that was available on the table. It's a very light agreement.
Oh, you say this is a very light agreement. Could you please elaborate on that?
Almost all agriculture is exempt because it's a sensitivity for both sides. Europe has agreed to extensive staging and quotas on sensitive products like automotives, where India has very strong industry ambitions. That's understandable. If you look at the regulation, nothing has been agreed to any changes on either side. There will be dialogue for solving some of the regulatory issues. For example, Europeans are very upset with the so-called NCO, and India is very upset about the European environmental regulations. None of them will change, but we will continue to have a dialogue, and that's normal. Nobody puts their regulations on the table for any trading partner, so that's not what we do in trade negotiations. So this is a relatively, it's the best available to India or EU at the moment. It's the best deal on the table from any country. But if you look at it from a perspective of a trade agreement anywhere in the world for the last 10 years, it's not very ambitious.
Right. Now, the reason I asked you about the geopolitical context is because, Indians have been vilified for buying the Russian oil. This was made into a huge deal. And of course, we know EU positions as far as Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. We've also seen the first reaction from US coming in where they are not liking it very much that EU is doing business with India. There has been additional threats of tariffs, etc., even on EU because of this deal. So I just wanted your sense on the political message which everybody feels that EU is sending because they're not very happy with Donald Trump currently as well.
Yeah, that's true. But it does not necessarily mean that we can leverage whatever, let's say, political leverage we have against each other between India and the EU. They are equally dependent on each other. I mean, let's face it. If you look at it in terms of absolute growth from the 2026, India is producing just as much growth as Europe. Europe is far more export dependent than China is. Europe has run out of markets. It's only India left. So I don't think we should exaggerate the so-called geopolitical consequence of this. Nobody abandons their allies or leave a constellation like NATO or BRICS or give up support for its allies over a trade agreement. That's not what trade agreements do.
Sure.
They settle the difference between existing policies. So that's why I was laughing a little bit on the concerns about, for example, the Russia gas purchases. That's a sovereign decision of India. Of course, we're going to try to influence. Of course, we're going to create trouble. Are we going to walk away from a trade agreement over it? No, that will be counterproductive. Then we lose all leverage.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
No, but finally, your sense on whether this will have an impact of any kind on these retaliatory tariffs business that we're seeing with Donald Trump. Do you think this will be a sobering moment for that kind of a policy coming from America?
Well, India rightly resisted the approaches from United States to open up unilaterally. To that sense, I think India has more options on the table than European Union, who didn't actually have any choice but to sign a deal with the United States. That's only due to the fact that Europe is more vulnerable because it's more trade dependent than China is. So I congratulate India's position. I congratulate India's ability to choose. And right now they have chosen to do a deal with the European Union. Would that be a concern and would that lead to retaliation from United States? It's possible that United States actually do the opposite, that they are forced to come to the table and do a deal with India now, simply because now they have competition. This is a concept we call competitive liberalization. And just to take another example, we started negotiating a trade deal with Korea, not because we
of the
like
European
Korea,
Council.
not because we like kimchi, and not because we like Korean cars, but simply because America did a deal with Korea first. We have to compete. And that's probably the movement it will set off, and it will increase India's leverage against the United States. And if on that pathway, United States decide to impose more tariff on India, that's not the end game. The end game is that India has now strengthened its cards. And what we are saying here is that, yes, United States might become more desperate, but it's not stronger.
And finally, as the ICC Men's T20 World Cup draws closer, today that excitement took center stage at CNN News 18 studios as the coveted T20 World Cup trophy visited us. We leave you with that. Thanks a lot for watching.
Trophy as it steps into the 23rd floor here at CNN News 18. आपका स्वागत है with the ICC World T20 Trophy. You know, you feel like walking like Rohit Sharma right next to this trophy. See, a big round of applause from our newsroom also. Can you just turn around here for our newsroom to have a look at this trophy? There you go. That's it. Aye, chaliye, we go into the studio. That's the riser on which the trophy is. It's all real, absolute live. We're doing it, walking into the studio. You know, Atul Vasan and Shivani, as I'm walking with them. Yeah, I want to do the robo walk. Yeah, seriously. There you go. But हाथ नहीं लगा सकते. देखिए, she is also touching it with gloved hands, and this is something which someone like Atul Vasan can explain how important this trophy is, ना? हाँ, बलाएं ले रहे हैं आप इसकी.
नजर उतार रहे हैं.
बलाएं ले रहे हैं इसकी. So let's do this together. आइए अतुल. एक robo walk like Rohit Sharma किया जाए. What? Touch नहीं कर सकते यार.
You know, this is a beautiful design. Can I just say, this isn't the first T20 trophy that was ever used. Back when the men's T20 was called the World T20, if you remember, the cricket buffs will remember this.
Yes.
So the first trophy that India won in South Africa was not this trophy. We all remember that moment very, very clearly. But of course, this has been used since 2021 edition, and it's a stunning design, isn't it, Atul?
Well, all trophies. I think you should even. Have you seen the Ashes?
Yeah.
It's actually this big.
This big.
But you know, the importance of it is to just win something because you beat all the world, and it's a World Cup, of course. But I think the main thing is that in 2007, India won it, but never had this kind of importance, this kind of relevance. Because T20 was just taking baby steps.
You know, his heart rate gone up. Atul's
well, you know, when I see this,
and what does it say? ICC T20 World Cup.
West Indies and USA 2024. So this is
West
the last
Indies.
edition's trophy which India had won. Obviously, the winning teams are given a replica of the trophy of that edition. But the monogram on this trophy says that this is the edition, the trophy from the last edition. And of course, there will be a new one that will be inscribed as well. But you know, this trophy now, Vineet is also here, is talking about us getting it for the third time. And you know, literally no one in this world believes that India is not the next T20 World Cup winner. Isn't it? The side is doing so amazingly well.
Absolutely, and this is India's World Cup to lose. I mean, it's not for them to win, it is for them to lose.
No pressure, no pressure.
अभी तक कोई जीता नहीं है. Nobody has won it at home.
I don't think anybody has defended the trophy either.
Nobody has defended the trophy, nobody has won it at home. Nobody has defended the trophy, nobody has won it at home. And also, if India wins this, India would be the only team to win it
three times. Yes, so we're looking for a hat trick. Interestingly, T20 is one of those formats where, for example, we haven't seen Australia's dominance in the World Cup. And that's because of the format. The format is, as we all knew when T20 was starting, a big equalizer. So this has given opportunity to a lot of other countries to win the, win the trophy as well.
You can see it from that the West Indies has won it twice. But West Indies, you can see how...
And England has won it twice.
So England has been good all over, but West Indies has been very erratic. So I think if you can tell that even a lesser team on a given day can beat the biggest team.
Exactly. You need to have firepower though, and when it comes to firepower, you know, there is nobody
We've got the firepower.
Yes, we've got the firepower in the studios as well.
So that's what we are doing.
Come behind the trophy, everyone.
Trophy को हाथ नहीं लगा सकते
I'll move in the corner.
So this is the entire CNN News 18 team, crew, who are all big cricket buffs. They follow every ball, and even when they are working, match is happening, match चलता रहता है.
दीजिए फोन दीजिए, सबका सेल्फी लेंगे.
तो चलिए एक सेल्फी टाइम. मेरे हाथ लंबे हैं तो मैं खींचता हूँ.
चलिए आइए.
Everybody together. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, ready?
Yay!
अरे शॉट lovely. चाहे हाथ नहीं लगाना आपने, हाथ नहीं लगाना है. देखिए, this is also the enthusiasm. चलिए. Everybody is taking
You've
live
got
pictures.
a nice
अच्छा
selfie
ये
moments happening
इंडिया
here.
आने वाला है कि जीतने वाला है इस बार कि नहीं जीतेगा?
इस बार इंडिया जीतेगा.
कौन? पक्का. सूर्य कुमार अच्छा कैप्टन है.
सूर्य कुमार अच्छा है, अभिषेक शर्मा भी बहुत अच्छा है.
अभिषेक शर्मा भी बहुत अच्छा है. आपके हिसाब से?
इंडिया रोहित शर्मा विराट को भूल गए सब.
रोहित
What about रोहित शर्मा and विराट कोहली?
Okay.
They'll be watching from home closely, you know. उनके दिल पे क्या चलेगा? They'll be watching this, sitting at home.
In all seriousness, without jinxing the side or without, counting our chickens before they hatch, this is seriously a team. I mean, you heard what the New Zealander commentator was saying the other day that,
we are looking scary.
Yeah, we are looking scary, but there can be, India has the bench strength too to field as many as two T20 teams.
I will think back to the Ahmedabad that day because India won all the matches in the 50-over World Cup. But till that day, we were invincible. We thought we've already got it. So one day, just one bad session can take it away from you.
And this format, as I was saying, is such that even a weaker team can actually, pull one on you.
It's in the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
This T20 is a perfect format for bringing up teams which are not very good. You can see Italy is there, Nepal is there, 20 teams are playing. But serious contenders, I think there are only 3 or 4.
Which is, according to
India, of course. England always, Australia. And I think
India, England, Australia.
And South Africa also.
What do you make of the balance of the current side or the squad that has been announced, for example?
I'll repeat it again. I think all corners are remaining looking very solid. But no injuries, barring no injuries, I think, because even if somebody gets injured, we've got that back-to-back, man-to-man matching. We've got the bench strength enough. And I think the main thing will be that just keeping this pressure of everybody expecting that we are going to just take it.
Okay, I guess we've got a second batch of our colleagues from the News 18 team wanting to come in. Yes, guys, please come in. Everybody come in one group, please, so that we can all take a picture. Whoever wants to come in very, very quickly, because the trophy has to go to our Hindi studios as well.
Get it.
Please come behind the trophy and don't touch the trophy.
Don't.
That's all. So we've got more members of our team coming in. Let's just be careful to spread out. Please spread out so that the camera can also take you. Don't stand in front of not in front of the trophy, please. Yeah. All right. Can we have one loud hip hip hooray for the Indian team? Hip hip hooray! Guys, don't stand in front of the camera. India! All right. So the trophy is now making its exit. Let's hope that the trophy comes back.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Friends, this breakthrough in the EU-India trade relations comes after 20 years. You're all aware the discussions were launched in 2006. 16 rounds of negotiations were held. Sadly, in 2013, efforts were aborted and almost nobody ever imagined the European Union and India being able to come up with such a robust partnership framework as has been finalized by our leaders today. In fact, when we relaunched negotiations in mid-2022 and laid the initial foundational work, prepared our game plan and way forward, we had elections in India and then in the European Union through 2024. So the heavy lifting for this FTA really started after the historic visit of the European Union Trade Commissioners led by Ms. von der Leyen in February 2025. And I think it's been the labor of love of the entire government in European Union and India, burning the midnight oil, persevering, working in a spirit of cooperation, India negotiating with self-confidence, both sides agreeing to focus on what is good for both set of countries, the European Union and India, leaving the sensitive issues aside, and therefore coming up with a very balanced, equitable and fair